Hello, this is Christy. In today's episode, we will look at adjusting the lighting and the color of photos in Photoshop because maybe the photos are faded or underexposed. Like you've seen my example picture here that I loaded. I loaded several pictures in my Photoshop and I try to find some that are underexposed and faded like you see, and I'm going to show you how you can quickly and easily adjust the lighting and the exposure on these pictures to make them pop, to make them look nice, well balanced, light, darkness, midtones in a with a very simple tool in Photoshop and a very simple procedure that I use most of the time, and you have the best results with this tool. It's called Levels, and we will do non-destructive editing on these photos to adjust the levels and show you how it's done. So we will start with a few photos first, and then I'm going to show you some scanned photos as well, because sometimes with a scanner, if the scanner is not very well calibrated or it's a bit old, you can get these faded scans or too dark areas, you cannot see the details. So I'm going to start with some examples of photos here. As you can see, these are very underexposed. Some of them are very underexposed, or they have a yellow tint or whatever. So the way to do this it's a very simple principle you need to remember. Using the levels is like the first tool you need to go to in order to see and try and fix the photos and adjust them. So then after that you can maybe add other tools and other adjustments, but the levels is the one you need to start with. And levels is really the balance of darkness, light and gray in your photo. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you don't have this panel open, so my photo here is just the background. I don't have any layers or anything on it. It's just as I loaded it from disk. And what you need is this adjustments panel in Photoshop. And if you don't see it, you can go to Window, Adjustments and turn it on. And the tool we want to use is this right here. It's called Levels. You have other adjustments on this panel here, but we want to use Levels first. So as you can see, my background layer is here. I'm going to click on Levels. And so far nothing happened, but Photoshop added a level layer here, an adjustment layer of levels. So what I want is then go to the Properties panel and adjust it. So this is the main principle I want you to take away from this video. Is if you look here in the levels property, this properties applies to this particular levels layer. If I add more layers here with adjustments, different adjustments, each one will have its own adjustment layer, and they will apply from the bottom to the top. So each layer will affect what's underneath. And what you need to focus on is this particular histogram here, this graphic. As you can see it's got 3 sliders. And these are called the dark point, the light point, and the gray point. And these are the 3 sliders you're going to be using most of the time with this tool to adjust. Now, you can see my photo here is dark. So the principle I want you to remember is this. Imagine that this histogram is a mountain. So your 3 sliders should align with this mountain. So the dark slider, the dark point, should come at the start of this mountain. Then the light point should come again at the bottom of the start, where the mountain starts to go up. And the midpoint, the gray point, you can adjust it as you see fit to bring in the midtones or put them out. So this is a very simple idea. So if you look at this histogram, we can see that the dark point is kind of fine. The dark areas are kind of very well defined, but the light point is way off. So you can see this whole blank space here, this whole flat area. This is what's wrong, mainly what's wrong with our picture. So all you have to do is just pull this light point slider towards the start of the mountain peak here. So see, I brought this light point at the bottom, at the end of the mountain. Don't just go over that, because when you go too much, you're overexposing your picture. So just stop at the start of this histogram mountain here. All right, so this is one step. So now we can see that the picture has improved. If I turn off the layer, you can see the difference. Yeah, this is what we used to have. This is what we have now. So I'm still not done, because now the contrast between the light point and the dark point is kind of strong. So I can actually slide now the gray point towards the left to bring out the midtones a little bit. Don't overdo it. Again, this tool is very easy to overdo things. So if you go too far, you're going to destroy, obviously not destroy your picture, but you're gonna exaggerate the gray point. So it's gonna just create all these artifacts and things. So you don't wanna mess the balance too much between darkness and light. So if you bring it up a bit, you can see now that my picture looks very nice indeed. If I turn off the layer, look, this is what we had, this is what we have now. Another thing to remember, I don't want to overload too much information here, but I'm going to show you maybe on another photo that if your photo, let me just remove this layer really quick, the adjustment layer. So we're back to my main photo again, my first photo. If you feel that your photo is kind of too much onto one color, like this one, for example, the white balance on this photo it's kind of warm, so it has a yellowish kind of tint, right? Even without any adjustments, I can see it's kind of yellow. So how can I adjust it so that when I'm correcting the lighting, I'm also correcting the color? So again, I'm going to the levels, I'm adding a level adjustment layer. Nothing's happened yet. I haven't changed anything here, but you see this drop down here, it says RGB. So whenever I make changes in this histogram here, I'm actually changing all three channels of this photo at the same time. But because my photo seems to have a yellowish orange brown tint, it means there's too much yellow in it or not enough blue. So I can actually adjust each one of the channels separately. So I'm going to start with red. So if you switch to red, now the histogram reflects the light and darkness in the red layer. So same principle, pull the light slider to the bottom of the histogram. Don't be afraid, now it's gone all red because we have corrected the red, but we haven't done the rest of the channels. So don't worry about it. We will actually make it look very nice when we do the other two channels. So the red is fine. I'm going to go now to green, adjust the green as well, bring it to the bottom of the histogram, and finally go to the blue one and adjust that. So now you see, probably if you've noticed, the blue one is a bit off. So the flat area here is bigger, is longer than the other one. So again, bring the blue to the bottom of the histogram here on the right side. So look at this. Now my photo doesn't have that yellow tint too much anymore. So of course you can go more with the blue. If you slide the midtones, you're affecting the midtones on the blue channel. So you can make your photo actually, if you pull more, just go inside a bit, don't do too much. You can actually give your photo a blue tint like this, because you're adding too much blue into the light side of the picture. So your photo gets all blue. So if you want to do that, I don't know. But if you bring everything to the start, it should equalize all the colors correctly. And if you still feel like your photo needs a bit more light, a bit more midtones maybe, you can switch back to RGB. And now you can see the histogram for RGB has corrected itself. So everything starts and ends where it should. But you can still now adjust the midtones for all three channels together using this to add a bit more light. So if I switch this off now, you see my previous photo was dark, underexposed, and kind of yellow, and now it is bright and well balanced, and it doesn't have any particular tint like so. So this is really the main thing you need to remember about the levels. And I'm going to show you the same process with more photos that are the same, faded, underexposed, and you will see the same principle applies more or less depending on how bad it is. So let's switch to another photo. I'm going to close this one. So this one, you may think, okay, it's not too bad, but I can see that there's a bit, this page of the book. So I've chosen some pictures of books, open books, because they help to show this contrast between light areas and dark areas. So while this book is, it's kind of a yellowish tint on this page here, this corner is a little underexposed. So let's try and see if the same principle applies. So I'm going to click on levels again. Photoshop has added this levels layer. So you can see again, my histogram on the right side is missing the light. So I'm going to just drag this all the way here to the start of this mountain in quotes. So again, you see my picture has instantly improved. If I feel like it's got a bit too much yellow in it, I can maybe try and edit each channel individually. So I'm going to do the red, do the green and the blue, and here you go. I have equalized the channels sort of. I can do more blue if I want, so then that will make the page whiter. And RGB again, and I can slide it back if I feel like it's too much light here, or I can bring out the midtones. So you can see the top area here. I can see it now very clearly while the page has remained unaffected. So look, turning it off, this is what I used to have, this is what I have now. Lots of light, lots of clarity, and the dark, the shadow area is now more visible without being too overexposed. Let's try another picture. I'm going to close this one. So this one is particularly bad. It's kind of faded, and I'm anticipating that there's going to be a lot of sliding to be done on the level. So let's click on levels now. So as you can see now, on this particular photo, even the dark point is off. Not way off, but it's kind of off, because you can see on the right here, you have this flat sort of area. So if I pull this in down, now I'm pulling the dark point down, you can see now the dark area has corrected itself, and the light point is almost, if not exactly, halfway off. So I'm just going to pull this to the start of the figurative mountain here. So look, my photo has instantly corrected itself. No brush strokes. I didn't have to apply 1,000 filters. Look, this is just the first thing. So of course you feel like the midtones are a bit off, you can slide this one, but okay, don't overdo it, and just, you don't have to think too much really. You just have to look at it and say, look man, this is. And if you don't know what to do, just start with the levels, start with the histogram, bring all the points at the beginning of this mountain, and then adjust a little bit with the midpoint, with the gray point. Let's try another one really quick. This one has a lot of colors in it. It is a bit underexposed, plus it's kind of yellow. So let's try levels again. Click on levels. We can see there's not too much adjustment to be done. So if I do this, it does bring in a bit of light, and the dark point is a bit off too, but not too much. But let's try adjusting the channels individually. Red channel, bring down the red here because it's a bit off, and bring up the light. Again, go to green, adjust this here, adjust this here. See, there's more adjustment to be done on the green layer channel. And then blue, there's nothing to be done on the darkness, but then on the light we'll bring this up just about here. Now go back to RGB, and I'm going to add a bit of more light. So I'm going to adjust the gray point a bit to just brighten everything up. So look at this. I think maybe the red might be a bit off now, so there might be too much red in there. So you can go up and down with the midpoints on the red, depending on what kind of hue you want to leave on your photo. There's a lot of color in here, of course, with lots of books on the shelf, so you don't really know, you don't really have a predominant color that you can give. So in a library, I guess the hue would be this kind of orange from the shells, I guess. I don't know. So look at this. This is what we used to have: faded, washed out, and yellowish. And now it's all bright and nice, and the colors are popping very nice. Okay, let's try another one. Just for example, I'm going to close this one as well. So this one is a very easy one, because it obviously it's just white and black on the book cover. So click on levels, and again, applying the same principle, bring the black down to the start, bring the white up, and then play with the gray point just to bring. So because there's not much contrast here in terms of other colors, we just have white and slightly black on the text, you can actually bring this way up, but don't overdo it, because then your text is going to start to fade. So bring it up quite a bit, and then look, this is what we had, this is what we have now. So easy adjustment. Let's try this one. This one is again kind of washed out. Click on levels. You can see here, bring the black down, bring the white to the start of the mountain, and then adjust the midtones, and there you have it. Very easy to do, very easy, simple adjustment. So I hope this was useful. Let's try now a few photos out before I close. I'm just going to quickly do others, applying the same principles. Bring out the midtones a bit. Look at this difference. Let's try another one. Let's try 3 channels. Red. Bring the darken down. Bring the light point up. Green. Same principle all over the place. No need to overthink this. We've done the blue now. Go back to RGB and pull the light up a bit. And look at that. Very big difference. Faded, washed out, yellowish, bright, and colorful. Yeah, let's try this one. This one seems like there's nothing much wrong with it. So let's see what the levels thinks. Click on levels. Oh, look at this. The dark point is the light point is kind of off. Let's try individual channels. Bring the darkness down a bit. Lightness on the red. Green again, bring the light point. And blue, bring the light point again. And then go back to RGB and maybe make everything a bit brighter like that to bring the midtones up. Very beautiful. Look at that. Big difference. Now, if and this, we're going to see this in a minute now with the scanned books. Let me just finish this one really quick. I'm going to tell you something about the color. So let's fix this one really quick. You know, see the dark point is way off. You can see that the shadow areas, particularly on the coffee cup and the left, is kind of overexposed there. So I'm going to just bring the black point down, bring the white point up here, and then adjust the midtones. So look at that. Everything has improved. Now, if you feel like, you know, this is too dark here, maybe you can obviously let up on the black point a bit, but don't do too much, because then you're gonna overexpose the shadow areas. So what I want to say is, like, you know, if you feel like doing this levels adjustment, your photo has lost color, maybe it's kind of washed out. The light is okay, but the colors are not doing well anymore because you've lost some of that strength in the colors. You can always apply another layer on top, another adjustment layer on top of your levels called vibrance. So you can click on vibrance. Again, it's, you know, Photoshop creates this vibrance layer here, which you can adjust with the properties. So just bring up the vibrance like this. Okay, don't overdo it though, because that could, you know, it can make your colors just too strong. But if you bring it like this a bit, and then you go back on the levels, maybe add some more light to it or something, then you can see, look, the vibrance. See, the colors are now washed out and faded, and now they're quite strong, more strong, and you see, you can adjust the colors a little bit if you're losing color on the adjustment of the levels, right? So let's close this now. Close this. And again here, look, if I'm adding the vibrance a bit, it just makes the colors come back, the color on the coffee there and the yellow here. So yeah, you can adjust that further if you're losing some of the pop. Okay, I'm gonna close this now, close everything, and let me show you some examples of okay, final one here, sorry about this. Bring it up, bring it down, bring the midtones, bring in a bit of color back. So look, very much different from what we had. Very nice. We haven't lost any detail in the photo. Actually, the light point, the midpoint, the gray point has brought the detail back out on these butterflies here. So if I zoom in just to show you, so this is what we used to have. You can see you can't really see the detail on these butterflies, but if I turn on my levels, this is what you need to look for when you're adjusting the midpoint, the gray point. You need to look for the balance of darkness and light, and then you need to make sure you're not overexposing the whites like this. You know, it's very bright, but you're also not leaving the dark areas too dark. So I mean, on this one you could even say this is better now with the very strong gray point adjustment. I can still see the text, the page, the table is almost plain white, and I can very nicely see the detail on these photos here. So this is a great improvement with very little effort. Okay, let's close this now, and I'm going to show you just a couple of examples of photos that are scanned books. I'm just going to select a few here from my hard drive, just 4 of them, just for example. So these are some scanned books. Now these have been scanned with a fairly old scanner. So you can see here that I cannot really see very well the midtones. This is very hard to see here. So also here I have to adjust the levels on this because it's kind of faded. So let's click on that, click on levels, and as you can see, I do have a bit of space, a bit of color here, but it's not enough. So I'm going to bring up the light point and bring the midpoint up a bit. So let's see the difference. See, washed out and faded and dark, bright and nice, and we haven't affected the color at all. Same principle. Look at this one. This is kind of faded. So you will get this on an old scanner if you're scanning a book and the light of the scanner is kind of faded because it's old from use. The light tends to kind of go down, and then the colors and the light of the scanned images comes in quite weird and faded and washed out. So you can adjust this very quickly and click on levels. See this, it's missing a lot of space here, a lot of color, a lot of light. Click on that, boom, it's all brought up. I can adjust the midpoints a little bit, the gray point. Maybe if you feel like it's losing some of the light tones here, you can go down a bit. So look at the difference, massive difference there. So this one doesn't look again like much can be done, but let's click on the levels. Okay, small adjustment. Not everything's gonna have massive adjustments to be done on it, but you can still kind of equalize the darkness and the light tones. Don't overdo it again. You don't wanna make it all like seem overexposed like that. So like this, and then maybe bump up the color a bit with the vibrance. There you go. So big change there. Finally, one last one, and promise I'm going to stop now. So this is, again, I cannot see really well on the dark end there, so I'm click on levels. This is a bit jagged because it's got all sorts of colors there. It's got light, it's got gray areas, it's got dark areas. So you have to make you have to be careful with the adjustments here. So first of all, start with the light. Like you see here, look, if I go too much, it's going to overexpose the light areas. So I'm just going to stop here, and then the gray point, just bring it up a bit until you can see the detail on the dark areas very nicely. But don't overdo it again, because you're going to bring out the artifacts on this. So just stop around, you know, just slide it up and down. You can see the previews, and when you're happy with what you're seeing, You can see all the nice areas of the picture. You're done. So there you go. Big difference. Darkness, washed out, boom, light. So I hope this tutorial has been interesting and useful for you. This is an adjustment I use a lot in all of my photo editing and photo work. So if you're dealing with photos of products or scanned pictures or photos that are underexposed or kind of washed out, no problem. Use the levels adjustment in Photoshop. This levels adjustment is present in other software as well, and I'm going to do a video showing the same thing, how to do it with the free tool called XN View. That one's got levels adjustment the same way like in Photoshop, so you can do that for free with your photos. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and see you next time.